Welcome to Brent's Anime Recommendation Corner, where I talk about anime that I love, much like the fan subbers do. The Record of Lodoss War, original OVA.
Wow.
Yeah. This is a, dare I say, generic fantasy anime series. In the sense that the creators of this very much want to give you the classic anime experience. It is dragons and people with swords and hot elves and all the things that you might expect from a series like this. You can get Tiamat there in the background. And just kind of all the things, all of the tropes, all the time. And the reason is, this is based on an RPG campaign, a tabletop RPG campaign.
A D&D campaign.
Yeah, technically not D&D. To be clear, it's one of those things where, as close to D&D as you can get without it being D&D, basically. But it's technically a different system. But if you think D&D, you got it. It was a bunch of basically anime creators and writers and so forth who were working on this. Funnily enough, one of the players decided, we tell a story of this, and so he actually serialized it in, I think, a tabletop role-playing magazine, as like a campaign diary. Here's what happened kind of this week, and he kind of fictionalized it. And that got hugely popular, and so it kind of got adapted as time went on. And this became a common thing. There's quite a few anime and manga that were originally serialized as these sort of these stories. And so, again, it is very generic elves and dwarves fantasy. But that's part of its charm, frankly, is that it is all of those things ramped up to 11, with all the lightning strikes, and you have your rogue who's all scarred, and your cleric, and your hot elf, and all that kind of good stuff, your priest, and good old Deedlit. Ironically, bards, the male writer played Deedlit, the hot female elf, in the campaign. Which is one of the reasons why Deedlit features so heavily in the anime, by the way, because it's literally the writer's character. But
go figure that.
Go figure that, exactly.
Imagine.
And granted, Deedlit became a very, very popular character at the time.
No doubt.
Yeah, hot elf.
Fanboys. Yeah.
Yes, with giant shoulder pads.
Yes.
She loves her armor.
Massive tracts of shoulders.
Record of Lodoss War is very much sort of standard Tolkien-esque fantasy, presented writ large in classic anime format in this 90s OVA. It sometimes suffers from the fact that it was a D&D campaign kind of transcribed out, because that was part of its appeal. Is that people were experiencing D&D campaign, much like Critical Role. If you're familiar with that these days, a big publicized, live play of a D&D campaign. People were enjoying seeing how the plot kind of bounced around to different things and have explored things. So there is literally a moment in the Record of Lodoss War OVA when they've dealt with kind of the first main plot line. They're all standing around like a lake chatting. A carriage careens up to them, crashes next to them. The driver collapses on the ground, goes up and goes, "You must save the princess!"
Wow.
It's like the DM not being subtle there in that moment.
What do you guys want to do next? We just want to talk.
Exactly.
You need to. Well, fine. Sure. You want to talk there? Sure.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. You hear the sound of a carriage approaching. It's there are moments like that. But again, it's part of the charm. It's part of the fun of watching it. So if you understand that origin, you'll kind of get a lot of how the plot goes, and some things kind of come out of nowhere. There's a change in character where you're like, oh, the player stopped playing that character. Okay, gotcha. All right, that's what happened there. Okay, understood. That's why they went away and suddenly came back as an NPC villain. Okay, understood. But great fun, and again, very much in that classic 90s anime style. Budget is Kind of varies. There's some really well crafted animation here, and I really love the camera angles and the use of just kind of inventive angles for the camera and how that's used to add tension or subtract from tension. A lot of darkness in here visually, a lot of dark shadows and such, and things to really add to that without making it feel like it's just everything has a grimy filter over it. And just a really, really fun fantasy adventure all the way through. And it does come to a big ending, big climax in the end. Lodoss War is popular. There are at least 2 other anime series set in the Lodoss universe. Legend of Crystania, the movie, and Rune Soldier Louis, a screwball comedy set in the Lodoss War universe. Which that's a trip.
Soldier Louis.
Rune Soldier Louis, yes. AKA Rune Soldier. But yes, so Lodoss War, again, if you're looking for kind of a classic fantasy anime aesthetic, this is exactly what you'll get. And just be great fun.